I'm sure if you immediately went back on myself. Right. What to say, how to introduce. One of the more interesting videos that seems to go quite viral on social media are those videos where people talk about what you shouldn't say to a specific group. I know that for myself, being a part of the autistic community on different social media platforms, that sometimes the words that we use, the phrases that we use, people can have very strong and large reactions to. Whilst we are not looking at one of those videos today, we are going to watch one from Mom on the Spectrum, 46 phrases that upset autistic brains. We're going to have a look at those, seeing if they vibe, seeing if I vibe with them, if they make sense to me, and should be a good video, as always.
Hey, it's Taylor with Mom on the Spectrum, and today I've got another unedited video for you featuring 46 phrases or questions that hurt autistic people's brains. This was a suggestion that I had sent in to me on my Instagram. I thought it was a great idea, and so I posed the question on my social media sites, and I got more responses to this question than I have on anything else. And the cool thing about it was I started to see patterns, like in all things within our autistic community, of similar experiences that we all have. And there's a lot of phrases on here that I saw again and again and again. So stay tuned for the end for the number one thing that people said is the most upsetting thing to hear. And also let me hear your comments.
Yeah, you've got to put the best one at the end. That's a good old video tactic there. I feel like anything which has the potential of being negative, like people just in general will be more likely to sort of comment or send in stuff because, you know, anger or annoyance is a very negative emotion. And I think they have shown that, you know, people who go on social media rampages tend to be particularly in that type of emotion at that time.
What are some things that might have been left off the list that are upsetting for you to hear? If anybody wants to make like timestamps for the 46 different phrases and put it in the comments, I will pin your comment. Like, I would love it if you would do that because I know some of you enjoy doing that. That would help me out.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we jump into the list, just want to make sure you know I've got a new thing to offer. First of all, did I say my name? I'm Taylor. I'm a late diagnosed autistic mom with 2 autistic kids. I started my channel to help other autistic adults find community and learn to love themselves after a lifetime of not having enough validation and support. So I've got free resources that I will link in the description.
Yes, make sure to like
guide to understanding
the stream.
autism.
Thank you very much for that.
But what I wanted to share with you today is I am starting to make my classes that I've run for the past 3 years available on demand. So the one that I just released is my most popular class of all time, Autistic Inertia and Demand Avoidance. This one has always sold out, and I decided to make it available so that you can watch it whenever you want to watch it. So I will put a link to that in the description, but it's momonthespectrum.life/classes. Also have a class called How to Unmask,
How to unmask
autism, relationships on the spectrum.
Is this what you're supposed to do on YouTube nowadays? You just gotta because I always save my little rant for the end of the video. I've seen from like other YouTubers and like YouTube coaches that you're supposed to not include that stuff nowadays. I don't know. It's YouTube hurts my brain.
What I'm going to call it. So autism in relationships, autism in the workplace. Keep checking that link. momonthespectrum.life/classes, bookmark it because I've got a lot more stuff coming for you. Okay. That being said, if this video is helpful to you, please like it and subscribe to the channel. That's totally free, and that helps me out so much as a single autistic mom with 2 autistic kids. Okay, so let's jump into the list. Numero uno, number 1. Should I say trigger warning? Because I'm going to ask some of these questions and say some of these statements, and I know that we're going to have a cringe response. Okay, so reminder to breathe.
Yes, trigger warning for cringe. Let's do it. Have a little breath.
Deeply
calm
during
your
this
nervous
video.
system.
They're just questions. You don't have to answer them. Okay. The first one's a statement. Tell me a little bit about yourself, or share a fun fact about yourself. Yeah. How many of you, your brain just freezes, goes blank? I don't know. Who am I? What's my name?
I don't really have a problem with doing that. Not gonna lie. I feel like most people would have, like, especially if you are like being a part of a group, you know, people are listening to you. You're sort of going around in a circle. I feel like most people who have any semblance of like public speaking anxiety or social anxiety would have that same issue. Makes sense though, because I imagine that a lot of autistic people may find that.
Number 2, can you tell me about a time when, or give me an example? So for me, this is so frustrating. When somebody asks me to give an example, it's like I can either be social and have this conversation with you, or I can retreat into the recesses of my mind and figure out an adequate example based on all the parameters that it needs to fit in this given moment. I can do one of those two things. And if I do the latter, you're going to think that I'm weird and that I'm just staring into space blankly for too long until I realize that it's now been an awkward amount of time and I need to come back to the conversation. So yeah, giving an example on the spot, very, very difficult.
I think giving an example just in general is like a very sort of debate style thing, you know? It's basically like giving people an idea of where your perspective is coming from, or like the reason to why you believe something. Only really affects me in professional settings. I freeze. I see.
Number 3, because I said so. This one came up so much. We need to know why.
Yeah.
We don't want to do things just because you said so. We need to understand the reason behind it, and then we'll back off. Okay. But because I said so, that can be an instant meltdown for some of us. Along with this, number 4, that's
a demand related thing, isn't it? A PDA thing. That makes a lot of sense. But I think people can generally get quite annoyed or frustrated with autistic people when they ask us to do something and we don't understand why, you know. Usually we want to understand why we are doing something. Because I think asking clarifying questions can be quite important for us, because I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of situations where someone's asked me to do something and I've done what I thought they wanted me to do, but it wasn't what they wanted me to do. So I always ask a lot of clarifying questions. Like, some people respond negatively to the questioning, but yeah, I kind of have to do it if they want me to. Yeah, context is needed, 100%.
That's just how it is.
That's just how it is.
Y'all hated that one. That one came up so much in the comments. We don't want to be told that's the way it is. Well, let's do it differently.
Yeah.
I do it differently. Number 5.
Let's stick into your societal constructed normative values, my friend. Give me reason. Give me logic for my brain. It helps decode NT intent. Yes, I think that's fair enough. I mean, I don't know. I just think that generally, like, my gut reactions to things, or my common sense is it's a sense, and it makes sense to me, and it makes sense to autistic people, but it's not exactly the same sense, the same common sense that other people have. You know? Need some details.
What have you been doing? What have you been up to? I don't know. What have I ever done in my life before? It's like whenever I try to figure out what I should cook for dinner, it's like, when have I ever cooked dinner before? What meal have I ever made? I don't know. When somebody asks me what have I been up to, I'm like, am I a person? Not really. That's an oversimplification.
I don't really have a problem with that. I just say, you know, same thing as always. Did some editing, maybe did a stream, did some scripting. You know, went to Muay Thai, went to the gym, you know, just basic stuff, you know. However, I do think that I have the tendency of people asking, like, what's been happening or what's, like, been going on, to just skip over very large, like, things, like, especially if I'm having, like, a catch up with somebody. I brush over stuff that is actually quite important and significant to my life. I don't understand why. I think it's just, I don't know. I think maybe it's because I have a space online to, like, talk about these things, so I can kind of get it out of my brain. I don't know. I'm not really fussed about, like, telling people much. Not on purpose. It just doesn't really prop up in my mind as, like, being something significant for them to want to know, I guess. Just kind of slips my mind.
Oversimplification, but okay. Number 6, don't worry about it, or it's not a big deal. And I think this one's an issue because many in our community have dealt with so much gaslighting and basically invalidation of what we're experiencing in the moment. And
yeah, and it's not exactly like the intentional gaslighting that you would see with, like, manipulation related stuff. There is a phrase for it actually called unintentional gaslighting, which is something that a lot of autistic people experience, especially when they haven't been diagnosed, or, like, the people around them don't really believe or don't really understand sort of different aspects of being autistic. And so when we're confronted by something that really gets to us and really bothers us, because we're autistic, people undermine it, I guess, but not necessarily undermine it with the intention of upsetting us or like disregarding our experience, but more because they're trying to help, because they don't particularly see it as a big deal, if that makes sense. I feel like most people, if you're feeling an emotion and someone says don't worry about it, is probably like the least helpful thing you can do usually.
So when somebody tells us it's not a big deal, don't worry about it.
It's like, it is a big deal.
Maybe people that aren't autistic don't like that
Friend,
either, but
bro.
It particularly is so upsetting to us because we have a history of being chronically invalidated. So it feels like people aren't listening and they're just writing over the things that are really important to us. Okay, let's see. I didn't number these on my paper. 6, 7. Number 7. Rate this on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, I've talked about this before in my Things Autistic People Do series.
I like that.
When we go to the doctor and it's like, how bad is your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? It's like, I don't know. Who are you? What's your pain threshold? How are you going?
I don't know. I feel oddly comforted by rating scales and things like that. It makes me feel like I can sort of I can turn my subjectiveness of how I'm feeling, or like the pain, like for example, into something which is objective so that the other person can understand, which I find quite useful, to be honest, because like, especially when going in for like mental health support or counseling, or, you know, trying to communicate how I'm feeling to another person. Because of my experiences with trying to sort of suppress the sort of outward negative things that I can experience as an autistic person. It is subjective. I understand it is. But because I have a difficulty with that, people don't tend to really believe me as much. It's, you know, related to my tone of voice or my demeanor, my behavior, my facial expressions, my body language. If it doesn't line up with what I'm telling somebody, it's quite hard for them to take it seriously. But, you know, if someone asked me, you know, I didn't look like I was in any sort of pain or whatever, and someone asked me and I said like an 8 out of 10, you know, they'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, like, how are you today? Rate from 1 to 10, it's impossible. It depends on so many different things. I get what you mean. Maybe I'm just an odd one out in this situation then, but I very much like the rating scales. Not gonna lie, it makes me feel comforted. What does 1 represent? What does 10 represent? It's not outlined. No, I get you. I get that. It makes me feel comforted though. I don't know if anybody else feels the same as me. Maybe I'm just the odd one out. Yes, I understand scales are impossible. You know, it's inherently subjective, but it just makes me feel happy. You know, you have those emotional charts. You know, you got the angry face and the sort of meh face, and then you have the really, really happy face. It just helps me just to like point at where I am on a scale, instead of trying to explain myself, to be like, okay, this is where I am. I think I can tell on a scale of good to bad where I am. I can't tell why or what exactly or what the complexity of it is, but I know that I'm feeling sort of in the middle. You know, whereas with the pain, you know, I could say, okay, I'm a 6 out of 10 pain wise. Whereas I could explain, subjectively it's not too bad, but I know that objectively, you know, it's, you know, my nerves are firing, and it just makes it easier to communicate, I guess. It sort of, narrows down the options. Oh God, I'm spending too much time on each of these phrases.
How are you gonna determine my medical care based on how I answer this question? And like, there's too many things. So rating anything on a scale of 1 to 10, there's too many variables. It can't be done. The next one, do you see the big picture or focus on the small details? Questions like this, where it's like, it depends. What are we talking about? Are we talking about a wedding? Are we talking about my grocery list? Like, how am I supposed to answer that question? And somebody mentioned that's one of the questions on some of the autism assessments. And I froze on that one too. I'm like, both. Give me more information, please. Fake it until you make it. That's tricky for us, especially when you think about autistic masking. That's so frustrating. If somebody says fake it until you make it, it's like, welcome to my life.
Yes, I've been doing this for my entire life so far. And it's sort of working, but it's not really. It's coming with some pretty hefty drawbacks. You know what? Actually, to be honest, my experiences at university when I did start to mask quite a bit, because I didn't mask when I was younger. I was more just kind of an avoidance of social interaction. But when I did start to mask, that was exactly those were exactly the types of videos that I saw on building charisma or dating and friendship related stuff that people would say quite a lot. And yeah, I don't think that was very helpful, fake it until you make it, but you can't, because making it in your eyes is being neurotypical at that point, and you were autistic. Yeah, it's not the best.
Tell me something helpful. Okay, next one. Let me get my pencil over here so I can keep the numbers going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Saying, how's it going? Or what's up? And you don't expect an answer. Like if somebody just walked by, what's up? And that's like a hello. It's like, am I supposed to say how I'm doing? What does this mean? Why?
What's up, bro? How are you doing? I am traumatically, incredibly depressed at the moment, and the dark void of death is slowly creeping up on my soul. It's just a proxy for saying hello and sort of insinuating that you care about how they're feeling, but also not be willing to listen to them in that instant.
Why do they just keep walking? And I was like, it can be so confusing. Like, how are you using that phrase? What does it mean? That was one that came in a lot. Number 11, absolute expressions such as always or never. This would be one of the things on the top of my list. And actually, it's good practice not to use always and never, especially in relationships, because that can be very upsetting. But yeah, always and never, it's like, okay, that's not true 100% of the time, right? And autistic people, a lot of these are generalizations, but we tend to be pretty literal. And so if somebody says,
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like to a certain degree, just communication and social related stuff is not objective. There is always going to be the aspect of emotions and sort of subjectivity, which is a part of any conversation that you're a part of, it's kind of one of those things, isn't it? Because I used to get upset at people, I think, for not communicating directly and expressing everything verbally and properly using, not using those extremes. But I think to a certain degree, I was just really trying to force some kind of framework or some kind of logical boundaries onto people's communication with me. You hate absolute expressions. You view them as embracing stereotypes and bigotry. That's bigotry. I mean, I'd say that I don't think I use a lot of absolutes. Maybe I do sometimes. The only time that I would use absolutes is not to be logically correct in using them, but to express the intensity at which I feel something. I think that's the way that people use them, why people use them. Superlatives in general are very, very deceptive and gaslighty. Very deceptive. Extremely. Always deceptive and gaslighty. Oh, I'm just kidding. I think that's why people use them.
Always. It's probably not true. Okay.
Oh, yeah, of course,
12.
Eagle.
We should get together sometime. That's so much pressure. When? Why? What's the purpose? Are we friends now? There's just so many things of how do I navigate that question? What's your intention? What's your motivation behind asking me this question?
It's an expression of subtle interest, I think. But without the immediate sort of requirement to put the effort into setting something up. I think that's why people do it. Subtle interest.
Number 13, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. I don't know where I see myself in 5 minutes. Again, too many variables. I can't answer that question honestly, because where I am next week depends on the decisions I make today. Anyways, It just compounds too quickly. Number 14, what is the book you're reading about? Or what was the movie about? Another one where my brain just freezes. It's I know, and I loved the book and it was great, but there's no information in my brain to help me communicate to you what it was about right now. Why does that happen? I'm not the only one, because I saw that in the comments.
Yeah. You need the synopsis on hand. Oh, you want to know what it's about? Okay, just give me a sec. Pulls up Google. Everything is a code to decipher. Yes, they are indeed, for sure. Socializing in general is a very complex mess of both logical direct communication and emotional related subjectivity that can often even blend into direct communication. It's not even that they're separated. It's like, the expression, the things that people say can be an expression of motion rather than fact and logic. Makes it very messy. Like, it's understandable why we can have a hard time sometimes with communicating with neurotypical people. I don't even see myself now. Yeah. Forget about 5 years. I think that the best response to those types of questions is just, I'm going to be on the moon sipping, I don't know, Singapore slings in a hammock, watching the sky filled with rainbows that I've created with my ethereal autistic powers. I think that's a good way of going about it. I can feel people's emotions, so I know how to stay away from. Yeah. Hello, Edmund. Hello.
Okay, this one surprised me. This one came up a lot. 15, you'll just know. Paired with 16, you'll figure it out by yourself, or it's pretty self-explanatory. These two, along with the very last one that I'm going to share at the end, probably came up the most. This is surprising. I didn't expect this. You'll just know, and you'll figure it out by yourself, or it's pretty self-explanatory. We hate that.
I feel like everybody hates that, though. You can either take it as, oh, that fills me with anxiety. I've got no idea what I'm expecting. Or you can take that as, all right, this person can do it, so it shouldn't be too hard. I don't know. What do you guys think? When someone asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was going through medical issues and answered dead for 4 years. They never asked me again. God damn, Eagle. That's some dark humor. I vibe with it.
Yeah, because it's like a lot of times we need detailed instructions. Let us know what you're wanting, because my brain's going to take it a totally different way, and you're going to be like, actually, that would have paired well. There's one on the next page. Spoiler alert. That would have paired well with, why are you doing it that way? That's another thing we don't like to hear. Number 17. What's your favorite?
I don't know. I feel like some of these are just general passive aggressive stuff. You know what I mean? Just like the, things that people can use in a passive aggressive way that just kind of pee you off a little bit.
Anything. Color, car, movie, book, record, season. I don't know. Give me more variables. What day is it? What am I wanting to feel? I don't know. Number 18. I'm so proud of you. Does anybody else get annoyed at that? The people who wrote in about this said it feels condescending.
Yeah, I think it's something that you would, especially if you say it in that way, in that tone of voice, that there are some things that are very common phrases that we would say to children, if someone said, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to have you in my life and such. It can be very endearing, but if they say it in response to something that isn't something that's hard, or you do something that they've passive aggressively asked you to do for, I don't know, months or so, and then they say, oh, I'm so proud of you, you're just God damn it. Why are you doing that? I'm blocked apparently. How long will that last? You're blocked? How? I don't think you are. Oh, sometimes when you use certain phrases, my bot doesn't like it. I'm gonna have to sort it out a little bit. It's not there for you guys. The bot's not there to annoy you guys. It's for random people who join when the stream gets past a certain number, who just like to troll, basically. That's what it's for.
A lot of times I agree. I'm like, I don't need you to tell me you're proud of me. I did it because I wanted to, and because, I don't know, that it is a weird phrase.
Context.
When I read that, I was like, yeah, I feel weird about that phrase too. But I guess it also depends on the context.
Yeah.
I'm curious in the comments about that one. Number 19, what do you want to do? What do you want to eat? What do you want in general? What do you want? Those things freeze us up. And I think that goes back to being masking. And a lot of us have been gaslit and validated for so long. It's really, really hard to identify our wants. That's the number one thing that I came away with after compiling all of these responses. It's really hard for us to figure out what we want. And
I guess so. Maybe. I don't know if that's, I feel like I'm pretty good at that, I think it's, when people ask you what you want and what you want to do, they're sort of handing you the reins. And if you feel confident enough, and if you want to sort of lead something or ask for something enough, then you'll do it. But it's kind of this weird thing where it's nice because they're giving you control over something, but at the same time they are putting the responsibility onto you, which is, I think, just something that people do, you know. Like I'm pretty sure I see this in the context of like relationships quite a bit, you know. A lot of people can't just, you know, you ask them what they want to eat, and a lot of people just can't make a decision of stuff. I find that usually the best way to combat this, if you really don't want to take the reins, but you want to have a little bit of a, you know, it's sort of suggestions, you give like one or two things that you might want to, and then, you know, and that way they can reply with, so you've narrowed it down, the possibilities, and then they can reply with one of those three things that you will like. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a good way of going about it.
I talk about these things in more detail, like in my on-demand classes that I mentioned, and also in my connection groups that I run. I'll put a link to those in the description. But figuring out what we want as an autistic person is really, really important. It can be very scary.
Yes. Yeah, well, you need to advocate for it.
It's a silly example, but I say, you know, you can start figuring out things that you want and things that you like by just making a change as small as like trying a different cereal when you go grocery shopping, because I bet you've got one that you always grab. Just, you know, kind of on a whim, or maybe an educated guess, pick another one that you've never tried before and see how it goes. So just trying out those small, you know, I wasn't going to get into this, but my psychologist also mentioned something called a towards and away response.
Yeah.
So that might be interesting for you to do some autistic research on. Pay attention to what your body goes towards and what your body moves away from. And those are also good indicators of what you want. Okay. Number 20, this came up a lot. You're
oh, there's lots of thoughts in my brain, and I can't express them. I'm moving towards something. I understand what they're saying psychologically, but I'm thinking physically. Like, do you know, like the Tom and Jerry cartoon where there's like a pie on the windowsill? I suppose it makes sense in that situation. But that's the example that my brain's chucking out at me. Take it very literally. Getting better at advocating for myself is hard, and it's particularly hard when you're surrounded by people who don't understand, or, you know, as you said, Isabella, you know, I don't know. I think you know, assertiveness is good. It's quite hard though sometimes if you worry about people's perceptions of you, and you want to be like a kind, nice person in your brain, and for some reason asking for what you want, and, you know, just in general doing what you want for some people can, you know, sort of make them feel like they're being like a controller or something, you know what I mean? Because you might have experienced that yourself from other people. It's not true. I mean, you know, you should be able to do what you want, obviously within reason.
Awfully quiet. Yeah, awfully I was, quiet. And now I have the fear of being perceived because you've called me out in front of everybody, and I was just over here minding my business, listening.
Again, you're putting the reins onto somebody else with that. You're basically putting them on the spot to communicate. You know, it's the same thing with the whole what do you want and what do you want to eat. It's like you're giving the reins of responsibility onto someone, some expectation, which may be related to the whole PDA thing, the pathological or persistent drive for autonomy, as some people call it.
And probably in a different reality in my brain. 21. Happy birthday. I bet many of us don't like to hear that. Again, fear of being perceived. Oh, Beltray just jumped up on my desk right when I moved my pen. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, fear of being perceived. So when it's your birthday, it's like, oh, everybody's looking at me. Okay, number 22. Just do it.
I don't have quite an issue with being perceived. However, I can struggle with expectations, like especially sometimes around birthdays, if people are putting like a lot of effort into trying to make me feel good on my birthday, because I tend to be a bit sort of feeling meh on my birthday for some reason. It's always happened. And so expectations to have a good day is hard. But I don't know. I mean, happy birthday is just like something that you say, isn't it? I just want people to leave me alone when they ask me what I want to do. Yeah. What do you want to do? I'd like to leave now, please. Goodbye. Happy birthday is okay if it's only people I know and care about, but don't you dare say it out loud in public so strangers will engage. Oh yeah, well, I don't mind people saying happy birthday. You know, It doesn't bother me too much, but I don't particularly like having happy birthdays sung out, which I think is quite a common thing for a lot of people. They don't want to go to a restaurant and have a cake brought over and like the entire restaurant look at you with your Pokemon cake, you know, thinking, well, what doesn't make any... Why has he got that? No, you got like a little badge and a party hat, just like a look at me magnet.
Or, sorry, Belche, my cat's shaking the camera. Belche, we're busy here and I am not editing this one. Number 22, just do it. People were mad about this because it's one of those things like, oh, have you ever tried, okay, this would have paired nicely, again, spoiler alert, with one down here. Have you tried meditation? Just one of those things of like, well, it's not that hard. Just make your bed. Sorry, camera shake. He just jumped off and he would.
Well, that's another thing. So you're just kind of undermining the effort that something takes, or like, you know, especially when it's paired with things that you can find difficult, and people say just do it. It's less so of a it's an expectation, because you're undermining the amount of effort that thing may have for you, and at the same time, it's a little bit dismissive, you know, especially if you're asking them how and you know what to do, and again. Meditation is like an insult too. Have you tried meditation? Do people get upset about that? I don't think it. I mean, if I went up to someone, like someone asked me about my mental health and like how it affects me and stuff, and someone says, you know, and I say like I've been working on it for the past 12 years or so, and then someone says, have you tried meditation, or have you tried St. John's Wort or therapy? You know, in that situation, I'd be like, I can kind of get that, you know. But if someone just asked me, have you tried meditation before? I've heard it's had some pretty significant long-term sort of effects on the actual brain morphology if you do it consistently for a long time, in a way that it can reduce your emotional response and the negative emotional responses to fear and anxiety and such. Like, I'd be fine with that, and I'd just say yes. But I do meditate, but it's hard being autistic. You think? I've never had an issue with it. I do think a lot, but I'm pretty good at not thinking if I want to. Never had an issue with that. Mindfulness? Oh, I don't like mindfulness. The single thing that put me off the whole mindfulness thing is that they've shown a negative correlation between mindfulness practice and productivity. Which makes sense, because if you're focusing on the present, you're not focusing on the future. You're not experiencing that anxiety that could potentially get you to do things that you don't want to do in the immediate, you know. Have you tried not to think? Well, yeah, obviously in that situation, when your anxiety is extremely high and all the adrenaline and cortisol is making you think and overthink and stuff, like someone saying that, it's not very helpful, you know. Your brain's naturally trying to find a solution to the situation that you're in, you know. Love meditation, I use it to help with pain and racing brain. It's helpful for me in doses. I think doing it every night, it doesn't really work too much, but you know, maybe two or three times a week could be quite helpful for me. Generally like guided meditation around some particular issue or something that I'm having, because it allows me to get that sort of sense of calm through meditating, but also, you know, get some affirmations in there, you know, especially if you don't feel like talking about it. It's just nice to have someone talk at you while you're in a meditative state.
Weighs a lot. Where is he? Oh, okay. Well, I promise there's a cat in here somewhere. There he is.
What's up, pussycat?
Just do it. Yeah, like it's executive functioning. Like it's not always available. So when someone says just do it, it's like it's not that easy.
Yeah.
23. I love this one. Inspired
just write the essay.
By true events or based on a true story. Which parts? Be specific. I need to know. Is this like an idea that somebody had that you based off of something that actually there's too many different directions.
Yeah, okay, or ads that you see about toothpaste. 10 out of 10 dentists agree that using an electric toothbrush like this one helps reduce plaque by 33%. Which 10 dentists are you talking about? Which dentists? Have you done a survey of the entirety of dentistry? And they've come to some idea of something. It's actually a really crazy thing. Like if you see some commercials, some advertisements talk like making claims, they say stuff that you can't really disprove of because they're talking subjectively, but they say it in such a way that it appears like objective fact, which it isn't. And that really annoys me. Like, You know, or like they'll say something like you see some kind of cosmetic thing, you know, and they're like 83% of participants said that they have noticed a positive change in their skin from using our cream. Right? It doesn't tell me anything. What are you talking about? Give me some straight facts. Does it increase my collagen? Does it reduce the size of my gaping pores on my face? Tell me. It's not helpful.
Number 24, smile. Or, hey, come hop in the picture. It's pretty self-explanatory. Number 25.
Yeah. The best way to shut people down from doing that is just to pull the goofiest face ever. Just be like, smile for the camera. I'm smiling. That's how I smile.
Oh, when I say that's self-explanatory, is that annoying? Because that was one of the things.
That's passive aggressive.
Okay, so that would being told to smile would be annoying because then we have to figure out what our face is doing, what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Hopping in the picture would be like, could be a form of masking if we don't want to be in the picture, yada, yada. Okay, 25. How would you evaluate your performance? So this question.
It's the most general question. You mean how do I think my performance was? How? Or do you think what statistical method or, you know, what am I using to evaluate my performance? You know, those are the questions that go for me, you know, prop up.
I feel like highlights so many autistic challenges. I started writing them down because I'm like, oh, this is a good one. So
smile for the camera.
Evaluating your performance could bring up fear of being perceived, which is something we struggle with. Perfectionism, a lot of us struggle with that too.
Yep.
Masking, demand avoidance, and rejection sensitive dysphoria. So when I saw this question, I was like, whoa, that's a gold mine for autistic challenges. Number 26, trigger warning. And I say that, I don't want to make light of trigger warnings. So my apologies there, but this one might make you nervous. Hey, we're in town. Can we stop by? 27, another really popular one that probably...
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'd kind of like it if someone said I'm in town, you know, just let me know of their presence, especially if I want to see them. But I guess that can provide a little bit of pressure to socialize when you haven't planned something. I'm fine with that, though. I quite like spontaneous things like that, but I know it's quite perturbing for a lot of people. Smile for the camera, I'm already smiling. You're allergic to mint, Seagull Rider. No, you cannot stop by. Yeah. Okay. I get it. I am an outlier in some respects. For sure.
We would be at the top of the list in terms of frequency mentioned. Number of times mentioned. Would you listen? Or will you listen better? A lot of us...
Yeah, that's just passive aggressive. Just like, shut up. I feel like a lot of these are just passive aggressive statements. Like, I can imagine a lot of these being said by like a figure of authority, you know, or like someone who's annoyed at you or angry at you, or you're annoyed at them. Do you know what I mean? Like, used in a general context. I suppose that one used in any context other than to help a child sort of pay attention more. I think it's a bit inappropriate, to be honest.
Apparently have been told this when we feel like we're listening. We're just doing it our own way. Number 28, how was your week? Or how was your weekend? Again, I can't remember anything that I did in the past 24 hours.
Fine. All good.
Unless for me, it's that switching between the social mode and the tinker around in my brain mode. It's like, I can either be a part of this conversation with you and stay here, or I can retreat into my brain and actually, it's like I have to switch on a different light to look at that information, and then I can bring it back to the conversation.
That's a good question, Henley. Henley asks, so are people treating autistic people with a lot of passive aggressiveness? I can imagine so. We do have a different brain. We do work differently. We do things differently. We go about things differently, especially like socially. And so I think a lot of people, especially if they don't understand it or they see it as, like, they see the difficulty in communication as our fault. Yeah, people can get very passive aggressive and perhaps infantilizing sometimes. So I'd say pretty common. It's a good question. Very good question.
Conversation. It's weird. Anybody else? Number 29. What's new? What's new with you? Again, kind of the same vein. 30. This is the one I gave you the spoiler alert for. Why are you doing it that way?
Oh, yeah.
Again, my camera's shaky.
Because that's the way
why are you doing it that way?
I'm doing it.
It's frustrating to hear because I see it differently. We were talking about this in my connection group today. Just at work, seeing a different way to do things, and at first having people like,
I don't think it's actually like, I think the problem with that statement is that they're not like, if they were saying exactly what they were meaning, they would say, that's not the way that I usually do it. I think you're doing it wrong. That's kind of what they're saying, but it's phrased as a sort of a question that comes across very passive aggressively, you know, and indirect. And so the only response that I have to stuff like that is, yeah, I am doing it differently. You know? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the impliedness around it. Like, it's the indirectness of certain things. Like, passive aggressiveness or passive indirect communication does frustrate people, but like, just in general. But I think it just gets to us at such a deep level, because we're just kind of so used to it, and it just doesn't vibe with us at all, and we just don't enjoy it, that we just prefer to people to be direct, you know? Like, I'd probably respond a lot better if someone said, oh, I think you're doing it, you know, you could probably do it this way and get a bit better. Like, I'd probably get a little bit of PDA, like, you know, why are you telling me what to do? But I'd probably be more likely to hear them out. Whereas if someone said something like that to me, I'd just be confused. I'd just be like, what do you mean? Because that's I have a brain, and this is the way that I am doing this thing. But, you know, just responding very, very upfront and directly, even though I know what they're trying to get at. You know, I don't know about you guys. I understand when people are trying to be indirect with the communication and language. I just refuse to engage.
Say, why are you doing it that way? And then realizing, oh, there's actually a lot of merit to that, because you've solved a problem that we didn't know existed.
Yeah.
31. Are you excited? Okay, that's no. Because then what do I need to do with my face? Do I not look excited? Am I communicating something wrong? Like, am I supposed to be excited? How do I show my excitement? Too many thoughts.
Again, context. I think context is important. Learning, Thomas, learning. Oh, I'm glad. Now, when I tell people what I think or what I've been doing, I don't care if they want to hear it. Fair enough. You go, Isabella.
32. How's this weather, huh? I don't know. It's weather. How do I answer that question?
How are you, concept? How are you, collection of temperatures and winds and precipitation? Is that what they're asking us to do?
Would you rather? I don't know. Please explain the context. Would you rather do this or this? I don't know. I need more information.
Would you rather? I've never heard that from
What are you
someone.
thinking about? Okay, I just wrote down some things that I could be thinking about. String theory. What is insulation made out of? I
don't know. To be honest, like, I feel like asking someone about that. I mean, if it's posed in a way that you're upset at them because they're not speaking, and it's kind of passive aggressive, like, I get that. But also, I do find myself thinking a lot. And it's kind of nice. I find it kind of nice sometimes when people ask me what I'm thinking about, because I do think about a lot. And it's kind of like the person is wanting to sort of be a part of my internal world a little bit, you know? So I usually just tell people. Again, I imagine that it's kind of like a used in a circumstance where you're forcing communication when perhaps someone's just being a bit quiet. It could be used in that way, but I don't know. I don't respond negatively to that.
What movie was that actor in? They're playing that role really well. Do they have similar trauma like me? And then I'll like go look up their bio. I don't know. And then I'll connect that to something totally different and like a different stratosphere. And then I'll be like 10 million miles away from the thing that I started thinking about. And then you want to have a conversation with me? I'm like, I gotta
Is Mom on the spectrum ADHD as well? I'm not sure. That doesn't really happen to me.
Follow the yellow brick road to get back home. That was weird. Okay. 35, no pain, no gain. This has been problematic for some of us, apparently, because we take that literally. So it's like, okay, I literally need to make myself feel pain so that I can gain something out of this. No, that statement isn't literal. Some of us are just now learning that right now as I'm saying it. That statement is not literal. It just means it needs to cost you something, right? Like, you have to give up something in order to get something is kind of what
yeah, so the meaning of it. It's not like some kind of satanic ritual where you turn the perception and the experience of pain into some manifestation of power. It would be quite interesting if that existed, although, you know, what I'm thinking about, usually my connection to the universe as a whole and where everything fits into that and why. I vibe with that, Sarah. That's quite quite similar to a lot of my own thoughts.
What do I take that to mean? Okay, not everybody's going to agree with these next two, but I put them on here because I agree with them. I don't care what you think about it. You can think differently than me. That's fine. 36 is neurospicy. I don't like that term. I don't like it. If you love it, that's great. I'm sorry to rain on your parade. Use it, but I'm not going to use it.
It receives a lot of mixed reviews. The old neurospicy. Look, I do have to be quite honest. I do agree. I don't particularly like the term neurospicy. The only times that I would use it particularly is to like meme, as a joke. Neurospicy, what does it mean? It's neurodivergent, basically. That term makes it sound like baking supplies. It's to be honest, the times that I've used it, it's mostly bait for people to comment that they don't like that term. Like it's not like a horrible ableist like slur or anything, is it? It's just like one of those things, I feel like, I feel the same way towards the autism, Neurospicy sits very close to that. It's more or less when I use the term neurospicy, it's used in a way to meme or just like as a funny thing. I thought it was a playful way to say my brain isn't like yours. It is, Elaine. For some reason, people don't like it. I don't particularly like it, to be honest. Like, if people use it seriously, like, hello, my name is Thomas Henley, and I'm a neurospicy individual. Like, it's just kind of cringe, It's just a bit cringe, I would say. It sounds rude. Yeah, it does kind of have that aspect to it. It's the only times that I'd use it is for those exact purposes. And neurobland. I think it's a result of a crossover between different like social media related terms. Do you know what I mean? Oh, thank you very much, Anathema. But spicy is better than bland. Oh. Yeah, I suppose it's a value judgment. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it receives so much controversy. Like, people just don't like it, but then, other people outside of the neurodivergent spaces, they'll be like, what are you trying to say? It's not as good? You saying that I'm bland? I like neurospicy as a meme about spectrum level. Yeah, exactly. It's a meme thing.
7, a touch of the autism.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
Maybe people think it sounds funny, but I don't, no. I'm going to cross it.
I mean, again, that thing I think is only used in a joke context. I think the issue is that people from outside of the community can also co-opt that particular type of language and make it into something that we despise. Because if someone says, oh, we've all got a touch of the autism, or I've got a touch of autism, it's like, well, no, you don't. You're either autistic or you're not. Are you autistic? If you are the autism. I will have mine with neuro vinegar. A touch of the autism with a bit of neuro spicy vinegar. I love that.
This one off. Okay. 38, idioms. So idioms are like play it by ear, like a saying. Idioms are so confusing to me. I don't even want to define them. Every time I catch myself trying to use an idiom to have like colloquial language, talk like everyone else, I'm always like, no, there's no way I use that idiom correctly. That doesn't make any sense.
You've got to combine it. You've got to combine it with like an interesting accent. Bottom of the barrel. This is God, I can't think of them on the spot. Idioms make me laugh. I find them funny. I don't get new idioms. I found it funny, especially if they rhyme or they come with like a particular accent,
Weird to me. It's like I have to memorize them and then figure out the context in which to share them. And then I just get too confused. And then I usually just always have to look it up after I've used an idiom. Like, I'll just stop using them. Number 39, Don't be so dramatic or you're too sensitive.
Yeah.
Another one that I talk about a lot in my connection groups, because all of us, not all of us, that's an absolute. Many of us within the autistic community have been told that we're too sensitive, overreactive, and we're just responding to our body's feedback. We're like a finely tuned machine. If anything's off, our body tells us it's off, and that's important information. Number 40, super annoying. Everybody, please quit saying this. Everyone is a little autistic.
Yeah,
they're not.
That's
41. I mentioned this earlier. Have you tried meditation?
Have you tried meditation?
But on that note, because a lot of us, okay, the reason why that
one. I'm severely depressed. Have you tried meditation? It'll fix everything. Yeah. I think it's the context of it, you know. Boo. Yes, indeed. You're too sensitive. Well, I'm not going to stand right beside a key grinding station if I don't have to. Yeah, I agree.
One is upsetting to me. A lot of us have trouble sitting still, you know, especially you mix like ADHD in, and it's like sitting still, seated meditation is like a nightmare. So one thing that could be helpful if you're interested in kind of a meditative activity is something called Tai Chi. This is something I've started recommending recently because it's really calming and relaxing. So Tai Chi is like guided, gentle movements. Yeah. And you can do it like standing. My camera was following me. If you YouTube like Tai Chi, I think it's TAICHI, there should be some free practices. It's like a moving meditation that might be a little.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think that could be beneficial for people who have like a lot of energy in their body, you know. However, I like the extremes. I like the Muay Thai and the painful gym workouts. That's what really relaxes me. Not during, but after, you know? That's what I love. Tai Chi is really good stims. I see.
A little bit more palatable. Number 42, how can I help you? Again, this is one that really scared us. I don't know my wants and needs, so I don't know how you can help me. Okay, so this was unedited, but my computer locked and I had to unlock it. So one minor edit here. Number 43, just a little longer, or it'll only take a second. It'll only take a minute.
Yeah.
Again, being literal minded, it's like, it's going to take more than 60 seconds.
How many?
I put this one in here because I want to know your thoughts in the comments. This is one of those things where if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. We have all different iterations of ourselves across the spectrum. So 44 is swearing or cursing. Some of us love this. Some of us hate it and feel really icky. So I want to know where you fall if you.
That is quite an interesting thing, because for a long time, even going so far as like my early adulthood, I could not be around people who swore. I think it's particularly because, you know, when you're younger, you get taught that, you know, you shouldn't swear and swearing is a bad thing. And I think I really, really internalized that quite a bit, you know, to the point where I found it very difficult to be around people. Like I get that kind of, you know, shock response to when I hear stuff like that. I mean, the way that I got around that reaction that I would have to people swearing is just by swearing myself just a little bit, you know, just getting it off my chest, just getting used to it, you know, just getting okay with it. Like some people just do that. Doesn't mean that they're a bad person. I only started swearing in my 20s. Yes, exactly, Christopher. I'm the same. Used to apologize. God, every time in the store when I was younger, you swear like a sailor. Isabella says I swear multiple times a day, but not so much around people I don't know well. I do. To be honest, doing the online stuff and doing the streams and all that, because it's kind of, unless people swear within the videos that I'm watching, I'll tend to stay away from it, because generally it gives some people a bad impression of me, and also it can also, if you use certain swear words, lead to like demonetization and stuff. I use curse words as a form of verbal flair. So I don't actually swear much outside of YouTube and streaming so much anymore. It's kind of, it's not really part of my immediate sort of vocabulary. But I've got no problem about it for sure.
You want to share that? Number 45, why can't you act normal?
Oh.
Another one of the main
well,
ones
that's just straight up ableist. Like.
And then number 46.
Ooh, big one.
By far, hands down, the question that came in most often with the highest frequency of responses that upsets our brains is, how are you?
Oh.
Now, I think the issue here is that people aren't expecting an authentic response.
Yes.
How are you in this day and age typically means mask. Say you're fine. It's just an introduction. Then we'll get into what we're doing, you know, if it's a conversation or whatever. So I think that's the issue, is we're trying to decode, what does it mean when somebody says, how am I? Is it safe to actually say how I am? Can I actually say how I'm feeling? And even then, how do I identify this feeling? Because then we deal with alexithymia a lot of times.
Yes,
it's like,
I was going to say that.
A lot of times I just read everything as being anxious, right? That's my go-to.
You see, this is where having a 1 to 5 scale of emotions would be helpful. You know, honestly, like usually when people ask me how I am, like I don't tend to give like how am I feeling. I don't tend to give super accurate ideas of why I'm feeling something or like the complexities of my emotion. But if someone asks me how I am, I'm going to take it completely literal. I'm just going to tell you how I am. I don't care. I'll just say it, you know? So people just expect that, you know? And then some people don't like it, but a lot of people do, and they get used to me doing it. Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, you've always got to, if you ask someone how they are, like a neurotypical how they are, genuinely, you've always got to follow it with, well, how are you really? Like, are you sure? Tell me more. I noticed that there was some indirect tone of voice changes, which seemed to be quite negative. Let me know. How are you doing? If I ask someone, how are you? I want a real answer. Yes, exactly. Me too. Me too.
Feeling. So how are you just brings up a lot of, I think, ingrained social behaviors that are hard to deprogram. And I think it just becomes really confusing for us to navigate that question. So yeah, thank you to everybody who wrote in. This was really fascinating to me. I'll probably do a follow-up about this or like create a shorts spin-off series just because there was so much feedback and good information here that I think is really enlightening and helps better understand our community. Check out my on-demand classes, momonthespectrum.life/classes. For my recommendation today is autistic inertia and demand avoidance. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful to you, and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with the latest videos. Give me video suggestions because I just got this one yesterday and making it and posting it today. Send in your video suggestions. I'll do what I can with them, and I'll see you in the next video.
Sweet. Thank you very much to Taylor Heaton, Mom on the Spectrum. 46 phrases that upset autistic brains. You can find the link to it down in the description. Make sure to like and subscribe to that person. Comment below. Tell them I sent you. Tell them Thomas says hi. And yeah, if you want to check out the interview that I had with Taylor, I do have it on the 40 Auti podcast. It's quite a good episode. I can't remember exactly what the topic was, but I remember it being quite a good one. And if you have enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe and like, of course. Give me your thoughts in the comments about which of these phrases you agreed with and didn't agree with. And also, I would love to see you on my main channel if you want to come watch me do these live streams live in person. It's always linked in the description of my videos, and you'll be able to find it. Yeah.